The blast ripped through the stillness of Maple Ridge like a thunderstrike. Windows trembled, car alarms screamed, and within moments people were rushing out of their homes. A thick column of dark smoke poured from Karen's spotless white chimney, curling upward like a furious storm cloud. There she stood, Karen Whitmore on her driveway, shrieking with half-burnt hair, yelling something about bad firewood. But I already knew exactly what had gone down, for weeks. I'd watched her sneak into my backyard under cover of darkness, lifting logs from my woodpile, the very same pile she once fined me for lowering community standards. Every time I restocked, more would vanish. So eventually I stopped replacing them with normal logs, because in a neighborhood like ours, under the iron rule of a woman like Karen, logic doesn't work. Some people only learn when life quite literally explodes in their face. Before I get into how things reach that point, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and hit subscribe for more wild HOA revenge tales like this one. Maple Ridge Estates used to be the picture of calm, too calm actually. The lawns were flawless, fences perfectly painted, and smiles only appeared when someone was looking. When I first moved here 8 years ago, I thought I'd found peace after losing my wife. I wanted quiet, structure, maybe even a little community. Turns out I got the structure part right, just not the peace. I kept to myself mostly. I work from home as a freelance mechanical engineer, designing tools and parts for local factories. My backyard was my sanctuary, a shed full of equipment, a smoker, some benches, and my pride and joy. A neatly stacked pile of firewood I chopped every fall. Splitting wood was simple, honest work. It didn't argue or complain, unlike the HOA board. Most of my neighbors were decent folks. The Millers next door brought me pumpkin pie every Thanksgiving. Old Mr. Jenkins watered his roses and waved each morning. Everything was fine until she arrived. Karen Whitmore, mid-50s, blonde, always dressed like she was about to prosecute someone. Within a month of moving in, she somehow became the HOA president. Nobody remembered voting, but she had the whistle, the clipboard, and the authority. Karen loved 3 things: power, attention, and pretending she was saving the neighborhood. She strutted down the sidewalks with her camera, snapping photos of mailboxes, measuring grass with a ruler, and writing violation notices like a self-appointed sheriff. The first time she knocked on my door, she smiled that politician smile and handed me a paper. "Mr. Thompson," she said crisply, "your woodpile violates community aesthetic standards. It's visible from the street." I blinked. "Karen, it's behind my shed." She tilted her head. "From certain angles it disrupts neighborhood symmetry." I almost laughed. "It's firewood, not modern art." Her smile vanished. "You'll need to relocate it within 10 days or you'll be fined." Then she spun around and marched off like a judge leaving the courtroom. I didn't move the woodpile. I just stacked it neater behind the fence. I figured that would be the end of it. But with Karen, ignoring her only made her double down. A week later, I came home and noticed something off. The pile looked smaller. I counted, because yes, I keep track, and about 20 logs were missing. I thought maybe the landscapers borrowed a few during the cold snap. But 2 nights later, more were gone. Then again, same pattern. Every other night, a dozen logs disappeared. At first, I asked around casually, "Anyone see someone near my woodpile?" Miss Jenkins shrugged. "Probably kids messing around." But no kid was hauling 40-pound oak logs through the night. By the end of the week, my patience was gone, not because of the wood's value, but because someone was trespassing on my property. I followed every dumb HOA rule, paid dues early, kept my yard spotless, and yet someone was treating me like their free firewood supplier. So, I decided to set a trap. I marked a few logs with tiny notches, an engineer's trick, and placed a motion light near the shed. That night, around 11:30 p.m., the light flicked on. I ran to the window, but all I saw was a shadow slipping out the gate, something metallic glinting in the moonlight. By morning, 4 marked logs were gone. The grass near the gate was flattened, and the prints? High heels now. How many women in our neighborhood go out in heels at midnight? Just one. Still, I wasn't about to accuse anyone, yet then, the next day I got a letter. "Mr. Thompson, your outdoor wood storage continues to violate HOA Section 3 regarding visual appeal and fire hazards. Further disciplinary action will follow. President Karen Whitmore." I nearly choked on my coffee. The Same woman stealing my logs was fining me for unsightly storage. That's when I decided if Karen wanted my wood, she was going to get it, just not the way she expected. That night, while Karen was probably sipping tea and feeling victorious, I sat at my workbench sketching like the old engineer I was. I wasn't planning anything dangerous, just something educational. I wanted Karen to experience cause and effect, up close and personal. But before I got creative, I needed undeniable proof that she was the thief, so I went full surveillance mode. I bought 2 compact outdoor cameras with night vision and cloud backup. One went above the shed, angled straight toward the woodpile. The other I tucked into the gutter facing the backyard gate. Perfect coverage. Invisible unless you were Sherlock Holmes. The first 2 nights were quiet. Just a raccoon, a stray cat, and my motion light teasing me for being paranoid. But on the 3rd night, around 12:14 a.m., my phone pinged. Motion detected. I opened the live feed, and there she was. Karen, wearing her beige trench coat, scarf, and those ridiculous heeled boots that had left prints near my fence. She moved calmly, flashlight in hand, stacking my logs neatly beside her as if she was doing community service. Then she whispered, so quietly that the mic barely caught it. He won't even notice. It's for the community anyway. I nearly laughed out loud. The community?
Sure, Karen, because stealing from your neighbors is totally public service. She loaded the logs into her SUV,
Shut the hatch, brushed off her hands, and strutted off like she'd just saved Maple Ridge from moral decay. The next morning, I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, sat down and watched the footage again, frame by glorious frame. She even looked directly into the camera at one point, giving me a perfect smug shot of her face. A normal person might have gone to the cops or the HOA board right then. But Karen wasn't normal. She was the kind of woman who could twist any accusation into a violation against you. If I called her out, she'd probably fine me for illegal surveillance. So instead, I decided to let her dig her own grave with her own manicured hands. That afternoon, there was a community HOA meeting. Normally, I avoided those like the plague. Too many complaints about grass length and mailbox colors, but this time I went early. Sat front row. Karen arrived fashionably late, as always, holding a coffee mug that said "Number 1 Boss Lady." She looked confident, smug, untouchable. "All right, everyone," she began, tapping her clipboard. "We have an ongoing issue regarding fire hazards and property aesthetics, specifically Mr. Thompson's woodpile." I folded my arms, said nothing. "Despite repeated warnings," she continued, "Mr. Thompson continues to store unsafe amounts of wood in plain view. I personally documented the violation." Someone in the back muttered, "You document everything." A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. Karen ignored them and carried on. "Effective immediately. The HOA will fine Mr. Thompson $250 and require removal of the woodpile within 72 hours. I raised my hand calmly. "May I respond?" Karen gave that fake, patronizing smile. "Of course, Tom, but let's keep it brief. This is a community discussion, not a debate." "Great," I said, leaning forward. "Just clarifying something. You said you personally documented my firewood, correct?" "Yes, within the last 48 hours, she replied, smiling smugly. I nodded. "Interesting. Because in the last 48 hours, half of that wood was stolen." Her smile faltered. "Maybe you misplaced it?" "I don't misplace 80 pounds of oak, Karen." The room went silent. "Funny thing is," I continued, "I installed cameras after the second theft. And guess who showed up on the footage?" Her eyes widened. "You can't. That's invasion of privacy." "Not really," I said coolly. "The cameras are on my property facing my woodpile. Perfectly legal. Would you like me to show everyone the video?" The room erupted in whispers. The HOA treasurer leaned over to another member, whispering furiously. Karen's voice shook. "This is harassment. You're twisting the narrative." I smiled. "No, Karen, you twisted it yourself. You were caught, red-handed, or maybe red-heeled." Laughter broke out across the room. Even the usually silent HOA secretary had to cover her mouth to hide a grin. Karen's face turned beet red. "You're lying." "Want me to play the video?" I asked, holding up my phone. She froze. The panic behind her eyes was obvious. After a few tense seconds, she hissed, "You'll regret this." Then she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The meeting exploded into chatter, some defending her, most laughing. The vice president finally stood up and said, "We'll review this issue further." But I could tell the crowd had turned. People were done with her nonsense. That night I rewatched the footage again, backed it up to multiple drives, even emailed myself a copy. You don't survive an HOA war without backups. For the next few days, peace returned. No letters, no Karen parading down the sidewalk with her ruler and camera.